The most merciful pope in history, Pope Francis, condemns Trump supporters as a dangerous fringe group that hasn't, quote, inserted itself into society. And by the way, the leader of the one world religion also said any opposition to vaccines amounts to suicidal denial. Plus, what really happened in Washington, D.C. last week? And why did the park police let the Antifa wannabes walk right in? And finally, Nancy Pelosi wants to impeach Donald Trump. Surprise, surprise. Buckle up, America. 2021 is underway. All that and more tonight from the editor's desk. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Matt coming to you finally from the offices of the Remnant newspaper here in the new year. We took a little time off, took the kids to see Grandma down south a bit, and the apocalypse landed while we were down there.
The timing wasn't great.
Not great, no. I've never lived through anything like this. Maybe September 11th was similar when George Bush was flying around, nobody knew where, and there was chaos and a lot of fear. But this probably is worse because, politically speaking, I've just never lived through anything like this. One has the feeling that maybe Nancy Pelosi's in charge at the moment. I don't know. We're not sure where Donald Trump even is. This is a crisis. It's a huge crisis. And it doesn't help that in the middle of it all, we have, Reuters is reporting that Pope Francis, who, as you all know, is the most merciful pope in history, has pretty much condemned now 75 million Americans on Italy's Canale 5 News for what happened at the Capitol last Thursday, saying that, quote, fringe groups that are not well inserted into society sooner or later will commit this sort of violence.
Oh, really? So, like, half of America is a fringe group?
Pretty much. Half of America is a fringe group in need of condemnation from the merciful Pope.
Oh, nice guy.
Yeah, that's what we can expect from this fellow. I mean, there were nuns in Washington that day, holiness, there were priests, there were families, there were little kids, peaceful pro-lifers from all across America who had absolutely nothing to do with the crazy that happened that day. And you know it, Your Holiness. You don't draw the distinctions between the people who were there, the good folks who were there, because their vote had been robbed or they believed their vote had been stolen from them, and a couple of nutters that thought it was going to be just a hoot to get into Congress, to get into the floor, get into Nancy Pelosi's office and act silly. We all saw the video. You know what happened. We're going to talk about it in a minute, but you know what happened there. Some kids got out of control, and their entrance into the Capitol, at least on certain sides of the Capitol building, was very suspicious. I've never seen police behave like that, and I used to be in law enforcement. I can't imagine what the cops were thinking. But Francis and his globalist buddies are all in on this, and you know what it is. Please, if you could just be honest about what this is all about. You know what it's all about, what's happening right now. The way they exploited what happened, and let me be clear, what happened was a dumpster fire. It was a tragedy. It was a crisis. To me, it looked like a setup, in fact. I didn't go to that thing because I didn't believe in whatever that was going on. My impression was that Donald Trump was being set up, and that thing should never have happened, that rally. And a lot of you disagree with me on that. And there were so many good people out there. I don't want to make that a big point over which we disagree. But I'm just saying a lot of Trump supporters were very concerned about what happened. And now you have several people who have died because of what happened. It's a crisis. You see, but Francis, he's exploiting it. Just like Nancy's exploiting it. Just like Soros is exploiting it. They're exploiting it. They finally got what they think is their slam dunk to take Donald Trump down. And obviously now there's no help coming from the church. You know, even despite the fact that the most pro-life president in U.S. history is right now being tried and condemned in the court of public opinion by apostate practicing Catholics. Think about that. You want to know what happened to the Catholic Church. You wonder what Vatican II was all about and the liturgical revolution. Just take a look at Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Sandy Cortez, and the rest of these people. Gavin Newsom. They are the children of Vatican II. They are the result of Vatican II. They've been trying to get this thing done for a long time. Since 2016, they've been trying to get Trump taken down and take down his coalition. And now they're going to impeach him. And here might be a little surprise, a little shock for you coming from me. I say, Glory, hallelujah. Great. I hope they impeach him. I really do. It's over now. Go ahead, Nancy, you baby-killing, disgusting old freak. Impeach him. Make our day. Transform Donald Trump into the wounded saint that he needs to be now in order to recover and to overcome from this ridiculously obvious and transparent coup d'etat that y'all got going on right now. We see it. Everybody knows what's going on. Nobody believes this. Nobody thinks Donald Trump incited that riot. Within hours of realizing what was going on, he tried to cancel. He tried to call them off. He said, go home, be peaceful. We can't have this. Nobody on the Democrat side of that did that when they were burning down my city here in Minneapolis, beating the hell out of people, shooting at people. Nobody told them to stop it and go home and be peaceful. Nobody. And say, well, Trump, he waited too long. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't know exactly what was going on, like none of us did when we watched with horror to see what was happening in the Capitol inside there. We didn't know what was going on. But as soon as he figured it out, one day he tells them the first day when it's happening, he says to them, go home, stop it. The next day he condemns it. And now they're trying to tell us that he incited the riot and that's why we need to impeach him. Come on. You think you're kidding. And this nonsense, this anti-Trump nonsense, after everything this man did, we all know he had more, as the expression goes, and it's just an expression, you purists out there. He has more money than God. He didn't need to do this. Stepping into the White House from the point of view of real estate was a step down. He did it because he loves his country. After everything he did, they're going to treat him like this. This isn't going to last. We all saw with our own eyes what this man did, and he did it out of love. Was he perfect? Was he a saint? Was he Jesus Christ's second coming? No. Is he flawed? Yes. Does he say and do silly things? Yes. But at the end of the day, the man tried. He tried to do something for us, do something for our country. And if you go back and look at those interviews he did with Oprah Winfrey 20 years ago and David Letterman, he was talking about it then. He was saying the politicians are running this country into the ground. And if I ever had a chance, I could fix it, he was saying. I'd do it better. I'd run it like a business, which is exactly what he did. It's all he did. But you know what? Those of you who say we were betrayed and sucked in by a charlatan, no, we weren't. I'm a traditional Catholic. Donald Trump doesn't know anything about the Trinity or the real presence of Jesus Christ or the kingship of Christ, the stuff that I like to think I would die for. Trump isn't necessarily one of us in that sense. We never fell for that. But we saw in what he tried to do for this country, we saw the hand of God. Is that so difficult for you people to understand? We saw the hand of God. We saw providence in this. The good people, the holy people, the Catholic people, the Christian people had sold out. The insufferable pro-life Bush family wrecked the world by their preemptive wars all over the place, destroying the reputation of this country. We stopped voting for Republicans a long time ago. And Trump comes along and says, no, you're going to fix it. This is what he did. This isn't going to last, what they're trying to do to him. These things never do. And I guess there's the positive part, right? Seems really, really dark right now, but evil can't sustain itself. It never does. And these people are evil. And you know what? Here's a prediction. They will be naming libraries and airports after Donald J. Trump, decades after the world has long forgotten about that gavel-wielding little cadaver from San Francisco. He's going to come back, and he will lead a movement, not as president. That's over now. Let's just face that. But he will be with us. He's promised now that we, those who supported him, patriotic Americans, are going to have a strong voice now. When he was still on Twitter, he tweeted that out, that he's going to stand with us still. He's going to continue to fight, and I believe he will. And he has the resources to do it. Don't forget, not going anywhere. And there are 75 million of us that are going to stand with him right now. And the question we need to ask ourselves right now tonight, these Democrats, most of whom are, what, in their 80s? When did these people retire, you know? See, decrepit old people. But most of them, right now, they won. They supposedly won this thing. And we're not even going to go into the steel business. For one thing, YouTube will shut us down if we talk about that. The obvious fact that there was a lot of cheating, lying, and stealing going on. We get that. The point is, now we got to talk about what the future is going to be. We don't keep digging in and just whining about the steel. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. The left doesn't care that it wasn't fair. They're evil people, you know? Yeah, of course they got away with it. They loved that. This isn't the 1950s where they're going to be, oh my gosh, I got caught because I was an immoral person, because I lied, because I stole. They don't care. They don't have any morality. They're thrilled when they get away with it. The only thing that's moral or immoral nowadays is whether or not you can get away with this stuff. But now they've won, supposedly. They got the power, right? So why are they still freaking out about Donald Trump? Why don't they just act like they've been there, assume the reins of power, and begin their new regime? You know, why don't they just do that? That's what's normal. That's what's natural. Drop the mic. We won, Donald. Walk away. But instead, I hate him. I gotta take him down. I gotta scratch his eyeballs out. Why? Think about this. Why? Because they're terrified of Donald Trump, the ex-president, when he gets out. And why are they terrified of him? Because he will still have the voice of the people, and the people have had enough. And we need to stay up, friends. If we lose the dang White House, we lose it. That does not mean we're losing the war, because we have no intention of losing the war. This is not a political war. This is a holy war, and we know who wins in the end. And Trump is siding with us, just another powerful figure who's siding with the good guys, with the children of light. Think about that. Take comfort in that. Thank God for that. Now, even his worst enemies, Pelosi and the rest, want to impeach him. But they can't claim they're doing this, not with a straight face. They can't claim they're doing this because Trump failed as a president, right? I mean, what did he do? Let's just tick off a few things that Donald Trump managed to do in 4 short years. He built the strongest U.S. economy in 100 years, maybe longer, maybe ever. He lowered your taxes and mine. He restored the military, which means he protected us, protected our children. He brokered 3 Mideast peace deals that couldn't be accomplished through several wars and about 5 or 6 administrations of neocons. But this guy from Manhattan managed to pull it off. Remember Rocket Man? Who's afraid of Rocket Man anymore? Nobody, because Trump went over there, let's make a deal, it'll be tremendous or whatever. And it worked. Rocket Man is now doing whatever rocket men do, other than shooting things at us, right? Pretty amazing what Trump pulled off. And of course, he started no new wars, but he ended a lot. Yes, we would love to have seen the situation in Yemen be completely diffused and ended. But you got people like, what's her name, Cindy McCain, and the neocons that were getting in the way of all sorts of things that Trump was trying to do to pull the troops out of Afghanistan and so forth. But he tried, didn't he? Like no one else, to end these ridiculous foreign wars. He, what else? Defended the police. Anybody who's living in Chicago right now or LA or any of these big cities is pretty glad the police haven't been totally defunded yet. You know why they haven't been defunded yet? Because the Trump administration put massive pressure on that ridiculous movement to defund the police. Trump brought the unemployment numbers to all-time lows among Hispanics and African Americans. He defended religious freedom. He has no bigger fans than the Little Sisters of the Poor, who he literally rescued from the jaws of Obama, and now Joe Biden has promised to go after the Little Sisters of the Poor on the issue of contraception as soon as he gets in. Way to go, Catholic bishops, for letting this happen. Trump established opportunity zones for minority communities. He restored American industry. He brought American jobs home, and on it goes. And remind me once again what Trump's political failures were, because I'm unclear. Quite see what they were. He actually kept his promises because he's not a politician. And then he goes out there and he receives record-setting votes from blacks and Hispanics. He brought the people together, literally, even the races together, like no one else has.
How can you be comfortable supporting a man so many despise on racial grounds?
Really? I mean, let's face it. I mean, when you look at Donald Trump's record, let's talk about Donald Trump. Lowest unemployment for Black Americans ever. Secondly, the First Step Act, giving people, Black Americans, a chance to have a second chance out of prison. Third, funding historical Black colleges.
Democrats like to talk about fixing racism, but what would they do if it ever got fixed? Man, they'd be out of a job. They don't want it actually to get fixed like Trump was doing. And then he gets voted, Trump, the most admired man in America in 2020, according to the Gallup poll. And that's not some Fox News or some conservative poll. That's the same poll that voted Michelle Obama as the most admired woman in America at the time. Whatever you might think, if you're watching CNN or Anderson Cooper or any of these characters, people like Trump. And one of the reasons that a lot of people are feeling really uneasy right now, that it looks like he's on his way out, is because that sort of strangely Churchillian father figure is going to be gone. You know? And that's going to be tough. You had somebody that you knew had your back, despite his problems, despite sometimes his bumbling and sometimes his little mistakes. He had your back. He actually cared about you like no other president, certainly in my lifetime, ever has. And when I say you, I mean the little people, us, the people that don't matter that much. He cared about us. That's why construction workers loved this guy, because in his big buildings in New York, when Donald Trump came through, he treated them with respect, and they loved him for it. And he did the same thing as president. He treated us with respect. We're going to miss that. And now we're getting ready to vote in the first senile president in the history of the country, a political hack who doesn't give a damn about you or about me, and who never has and never will, who's incapable of caring about us. That's going to be bumpy. On the other hand, the man's an idiot. I think maybe we can defeat this guy, especially if Trump's out there whipping up the folks who stand against Biden, which he's going to do. So now these people, these ridiculously ignorant, selfish, narcissistic little people are going to impeach Donald Trump. Why? Because, he incited a riot. And they're just so offended by that. He incited a riot. I see. And they occupy such high moral ground when it comes to inciting riots that they would never vote for a vice president, for example, who had actually incited a riot, would they?
And I want to make clear that I know that there are protests still happening in major cities across the United States. I'm just not seeing the reporting on it that I had
that's right.
for the first few weeks.
That's right. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not. This is a movement. I'm telling you, they're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not.
No, friends, they're not impeaching Donald Trump for any riot. This was just another Reichstag fire, wasn't it? It was just an excuse. And it's not going to last long. The folks who were in there dressed like Vikings and doing all this stuff, they've been arrested, and we're going to find out who they were, and we're going to find out this had nothing to do with Donald Trump inciting anything. What did he do? He said, guys, let's go up there to the Capitol and show our support. He's proud of that. He's proud that he had 1 million people in D.C. He wanted to kind of flex his muscles. Okay, it was imprudent. I'll give you that. But he wasn't trying to incite a riot, and you know it. The folks at CNN know it. Got a little out of control like these things did. Not as out of control as the riots here in Minneapolis got when the Democrats were trying to make a point. But yeah, it got a little out of control, you know? And they're impeaching Donald Trump for this. No, they're not impeaching Donald Trump for anything that happened on January 6th. They're impeaching Donald Trump, and you know this to be true, because he said this.
Here in the United States, we are alarmed by the new calls to adopt socialism in our country. America was founded on liberty and independence, and not government coercion, domination, and control. We are born free, and we will stay free.
They're impeaching Donald Trump because he did this.
Every child is a precious and sacred gift from God. Together, we must protect, cherish, and defend the dignity and the sanctity of every human life. When we see the image of a baby in the womb, we glimpse the majesty of God's creation.
They're impeaching Donald Trump because they're at war with those of us who follow our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, as Trump himself was fond of referring to him.
The Son of God came into the world in a humble stable. As Christians everywhere know, the birth of our Lord and Savior changed history forever. At Christmas, we give thanks to God and that God sent his only Son to die for us.
There it is. You think you're going to hear anything like that from Joe Biden, the Catholic? Don't hold your breath. But there it is. That's the problem. He spoke that name too many times. We're not up against politicians. We're up against demons. These demons are now making an example of the most pro-life and pro-God politician in the world today. No one else comes close. No one else comes close. To be outspokenly pro-life and pro-God, they're making an example of that in truly demonic fashion. And so we have to ask ourselves, now what are we going to do? Is it going to give up? It's all over? No, it's not. No, it's not. We had 4 years of preparation, 4 years of a wake-up call, 4 years to get ready to defend what matters in this life. And now we've got a president under fire for standing with those who follow Christ, namely us. He doesn't know his theology. He doesn't know very much of the Bible. We all know that. But he agreed to stand with those who do. And he's now getting crucified for it, and we need to stand up and stand with him. He did it for us. Now he needs us. Because they spent 4 years trying to delegitimize this guy. And now they finally got something they think is going to get the job done. Which is why we can't accept the narrative of what happened on January 6, 2020. And there isn't much of a narrative. We saw it on video. You could see what was going on. This crazy spilling of people, mostly young kids, up the stairs through the little bike rack, and the cops let them in. And the people who were most shocked by the fact that they were now inside the Capitol building were the kids doing the job. They were completely stunned that they got that far in. There was no plan here. They were stunned that they got that far. And what this cop was doing, squeezing off rounds, shooting into a crowded, situation like that, God only knows. But a woman lost her life. Nobody cares about that too much, do they? Because she was a Trump supporter. Who cares if she lost her life? Well, guess what? She can't breathe either. She sat there and bled out on the floor. Was she doing something stupid? Sure. But it seems to me George Floyd was doing something stupid, at least enough to get somebody to call 911, call the cops to drag him out of there. He was being stupid too, wasn't he? But he had the right color skin. That's how ridiculous this country has become. Martin Luther King, it's like he didn't even exist. He didn't exist at all. All we see is skin color now. This ridiculous old octogenarian fart, Joe Biden, looks at that riot in D.C., and what does he see? He sees racism. Do you see this? He sees racism. He says if those people were black, they would not have been treated so nicely. Now you can imagine how hilarious that is for somebody like me who comes from Minneapolis. The cops simply left town and let the Democrat black peaceful protesters burn down whole blocks of our city. I don't think they got that much special treatment either way in this case. But Joe Biden, he sees racism. So what happened on January 6th is fake news. I mean, really, it's fake news. The way they're presenting it now. Donald Trump incited this violent riot to go up and kill people. Look what a terrible person he is. He's violated our sacred halls. They think they got him. Again, I wasn't in D.C. I wasn't at that rally. And quite frankly, I didn't want to be there because I didn't know what it was. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. It seemed like a lot of people were given false hope that day. I don't know who organized this thing. I don't think it was Donald Trump. I don't know. I'm not blaming anybody who went. I got a lot of friends who went. I know everybody there, most everyone there had beautiful intentions. Many people were praying and singing and doing it all for the right reasons. I just didn't know what it was about. I didn't support it. I don't know who ordered the storming of the Capitol building, but it certainly wasn't Donald Trump. And of course, why did the police open the doors and let the kids file in like it was a McDonald's play place? Never seen anything like that. But here's what it looked like.
They're gonna lock us in.
You can disagree with it, but respect it.
Come on.
Like kill him in hell. It's my motherfucking house.
Traitors! You can get inside now, but you're crazy. There's Trump! Michael, go ahead.
Friends, what's going on here? You know? And I know some people are out there like, well, we needed to do this. We showed them. We got in there, man, and we grabbed Nancy Pelosi's gavel, And I would invite you to cite even one gain, let's say, for Donald Trump that resulted from a bunch of overzealous Trumpers, if in fact that's what they were, behaving, quite frankly, like Antifa thugs and ultimately playing right into the hands of the radical left. Was there any strategic objective to this thing at all? I didn't see one. Didn't look like one. It looked like a bunch of kids that got a little out of control at a football game, in fact. Was there an exit strategy? Obviously not. Of course not. I think it was 15 minutes of fame for a few idiots who wanted to play monkey in the middle with Nancy Pelosi's podium. I think that's really about all it was. And tragedy came out the other end of it. And Trump now is really, really on the ropes because of it. In fact, if Donald Trump has a more loyal defender than Kayleigh McEnany, I'd like to know who it is. And yet here's what she said about this disaster last Thursday.
What we saw yesterday was a group of violent rioters undermining the legitimate First Amendment rights of the many thousands who came to peacefully have their voices heard in our nation's capital. Those who violently besieged our capital are the opposite of everything this administration stands for.
Right. It could not have been scripted or choreographed any better for Team Biden. And the media fired up their outrage machine, and they've been using this thing to dismantle not just Trump ever since, not just the Trump administration, but the entire MAGA coalition. January 6th, George Soros must have been sitting there with his varicose veined legs up on his life support machine, his laughter cackling through his oxygen mask, and just really enjoying what he was seeing because he was behind it, of course. He took down Donald Trump that day, exactly as he predicted he would.
Clearly, I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, after watching this, the reactions of so many people, I don't know who to trust. I really don't. I know we're all supposed to be really ticked off at Mike Pence. Maybe that's right. I don't know. I question whether it's particularly helpful right now to the cause, or is it just sort of another thing that makes George Soros kind of cackle with delight that we're now taking Donald Trump's number two and throwing him under the bus, and everything was a waste of time. Everything was a joke. Trump was either too stupid or too ignorant to realize that Pence was one of the deep state. I'm not sure it's useful. What I do know, and again, I'm not trying to defend Pence. I know a lot of folks are really disappointed, but I'm just not sure it's useful. And I do know that this guy was incredibly loyal to Donald Trump throughout these 4 years. And Trump and Pence, you could not find two guys with more opposite personalities. Mm-hmm. They weren't drinking buddies. Let's put it that way, And yet Pence really stood in there with Trump, loyally stood in. I got my problems with Pence, but I mean, we all saw that. He was a loyal guy, very strong on the pro-life question. And if Mike Pence thought that there was no chance, absolutely no chance of changing the outcome of the election, maybe what he was trying to do was protect his boss from what they're doing to him right now post-riot. I don't know. I'm not asserting that. I'm just admitting my own ignorance. I'm not sure. Even Ted Cruz was out there saying that there's virtually no chance of overturning the election. And this was just day before the riot.
Realistically, can this really happen? I don't like to give this audience false hope. I want to, would we have an audit? Is that real? Is that a possibility? Do you see, for example, do you see any after tomorrow, is there a path for the president constitutionally?
So unfortunately, I think it is extraordinarily uphill.
And the main thing is, friends, and I'll close on this, we need to keep it together, especially over the next couple of weeks. We need to work on this coalition at every level, in our families, in our churches, with our neighbors. Coalition that was so strong just a couple of weeks ago. We need to make sure it stays strong. We can all work to make that happen, especially over the next couple of weeks now when they are going to be using everything. They're going to be throwing everything that they have at us to obliterate Trump's MAGA movement. And I get it. Ronald Reagan used that expression first, but it has been basically Trump's movement, the flags, the boats, the trucks, and all the wonderful stuff that we saw over the past couple of years leading up to the election. That's the problem. That's what the left is terrified of. Need to keep it together, because if it gets destroyed, then there will be no opposition, certainly not in this country. Main thing is we cannot let the MAGA coalition fall apart. That's really the only reason I'm doing the show right now. We can't let that happen. That, in my opinion, is more important than the White House. We didn't anticipate Donald Trump back in 2014, did we? God gave him to us. He whatever, in Providence, there he was. Somebody else is coming sooner than we think, perhaps. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But we got to keep this coalition together because so much ground has been gained, And so far, let's face it, the great persecution that we're experiencing is mostly over the left trying to silence us on social media. So let's start with that. It's social media. We all knew this was coming. How many shows have I done? How many articles have we written in the Remnant, remnantnewspaper.com, talking about the addiction to social media, the downside of social media? We knew. Just the Remnant itself, very briefly, we spent years now in hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of dollars keeping our newsprint newspaper alive because we knew, just like many of you did, and those of you who subscribe to our newspaper because you knew this to be true as well, we knew that once they got us all in, once they got us to cancel our newspapers and our book publishing and go online, where there's the promise of big profits, and easy content delivery, all they had to do was come up with a few hate crimes or whatever it is, whatever it was going to be, and shut us down, shut down the free press. We knew this was happening, and we started here at the Remnant. We started doing it a long time. I'll give you some points on that, not because I want to brag about how insightful we were, but to show you how important it is and how easy it is to do this. We have to do this. We can't just whine about the fact that Zuckerberg and the lefties over there, Dorsey and the rest, don't like us, don't want us on their platforms. We need to build competing platforms. I'm saying this forever. So let's start with that. You want to take a big old chunk out of the big tech scare going on right now? Sign up for the Remnant physical newspaper today. Sign up. They can't control it. They simply can't control that newspaper. And if they ever shut down our ability to mail the thing according to second-class permit that we have, we'll stick it in white envelopes. So really the only way they can close down a newspaper that managed to survive the .com period is if they start closing down the post office. And I think that's a ways off still. And if they close down the post office, guess what we'll do? We're going to go full on Sophie Scholl and deliver it by hand. I've got friends all over the world that say, hey, send me boxes of the Remnant. I'll pass them out in the street corner. We'll have some kids throwing them off a balcony in a city hall or a library if it comes to it. But we're not going to give up just because social media doesn't like it. Big tech, big left social media. So sign up for the newspaper. Or if you can't afford that, sign up for the Remnant e-blast. And it's going to help all of us stay in touch, which is the name of the game now. You can feel your social media falling apart at Facebook and Twitter and all that. We've got a hole in our Twitter follower tank, by the way. It's deleting. We're going to be off Twitter sooner than later. We're on Parler, but Parler looks like it's not doing so great right now. You want to do something? Help yourself. Sign up for the Remnant e-blast, because guess what? It is not gmail.com. It is not Yahoo. This is remnantnewspaper.com is how it's delivered. Private content delivery networks. I'll say no more because I don't want them going after that. But we have our own independent, thoroughly independent content delivery system around the world, especially with email. It's a piece of cake. You see? Big tech has no control over that. We're already doing it. Lots of other people are doing it too. Donald Trump is promising that after this all passes, that he's going to build some kind of a network, a social media news network. Who knows what's going to happen in the very near future? But we need to think like this, outside the box, you know? The links, by the way, if you want to sign up for our ability to stay in touch, what we're providing, the services that we're providing, the links are right down here in the description box. Just click them and do it, and you won't have to go to bed quite so nervous tonight about losing social media, because we're not going anywhere right now. Sign up for Remnant TV. This video will be on remnant-tv.com. And it'll be on YouTube, too, for as long as they let us stay there. But guess what? Remnant-tv.com is not Amazon-based. Apple can't take away our app. They have no control over it because for a few years now, we've known this was coming. We've known this was coming. And we've been working and sinking tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars into building this. I'm not nearly as terrified as some that this day has come because we have alternatives. And here at the Remnant, we've literally spent tens of thousands of dollars building our own completely independent TV platform. So these programs are going to continue to go on. Okay? You can be a part of that. So smile, be of good cheer. It's not all over. We're not helpless. We're not mentally challenged people that can't possibly figure out how to survive if Zuckerberg and Dorsey cut us off. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yes, we're being persecuted on social media. Well, it's not exactly starving lions, is it? It's not exactly Father Michael Pro standing here like this and getting 5 balls in the chest for being Catholic, is it? Because we got tossed off Twitter and we can't tweet anymore. I mean, right?
Well said.
Makes me a little nutty sometimes. The point being of all this, we simply cannot rely anymore on far left, socialist, communist, baby-eating, big tech people anymore. We are done with that. And when my little Twitter followers can is empty, it's gone. Rush Limbaugh. Did you see Rush Limbaugh? What a great guy. He cancels his huge Twitter account. Got a lot of followers on that thing. After they did what they did to Donald Trump, threw him off the platform permanently, threw him off Twitter. Limbaugh comes in and just cancels his own. Love that. I love that. That's the way we got to start thinking about these people. And the point is, guys, we have work to do. We got to get up out of the fetal position. Now, I know it's been kind of a scary week. I think we lost this round at the election at the White House. Does not mean that we lost the war. We didn't even lose the warrior. Trump's going to be there still. We got a war to fight, friends. You know, and we got to look not just at what we lost. Let's look at what we gained. Because guess what? And when you go to bed tonight and you're feeling scared and alone and thinking it's all over, remember what it should have been. 4 years ago, it should have been that hag Hillary Clinton taken over. And then it would have been lights out 4 years ago. Great reset, new world order, everything would already be here. You see? Instead, in his providence, God allowed this bumbling, lovable Donald Trump to stroll onto the scene, you know? And he proceeded to wake up millions of people to what the real agenda of the Clintons and the Pelosi's and the Soroses is all about, right? And I can attest to this. There are people all over the world that know this. They've woken up. They're ready. They're fighting. They're part of the clans that we always talk about. They're part of the resistance of the counter-revolution. I heard just today from patriots and counter-revolutionaries in Singapore. And they said, hey, give me a shout out because there's a bunch of us over here who are fighting the same fight as you are. Give us a shout. Let's work together. Let your people know that even in Singapore, you've got allies that are excited about what's happening, excited about what Remnant TV is doing. You see, that just makes my day, you know? These people are with us. Just like friends that I know personally all over Europe, all over Australia, New Zealand, Japan, you know, the enclaves of the Remnant with a small r throughout the whole world, friends. Don't forget that. You're not going to be alone when this all falls apart. And Nancy Pelosi's up there trying to close down our line. Really? She terrifies you? I don't think she has control of her own bowel movements anymore. Pretty sure we can handle this gal. You know, if we just man up and take her on. And you've seen the alliances that are forming all over the place, you know? Guys like Steve Bannon, you know, throw maybe a few seconds up on the screen of that. Never thought we'd be working with people like that, people who are really, they know this business. I'm talking politics now. They know how to fight. They're doing a good job. These alliances are forming all across the country. We're not alone is my point, you know? We are not alone. And soon, again, we're going to have an unleashed former U.S. president leading a pretty powerful pro-America charge. And he's not going to have to listen to, you know, what's going on in the deep state or the White House restrictions or anything else. We think about what a bombastic president he is. Imagine what a freedom fighter he's going to be if he's just set loose on these guys. And that's what they're terrified of. That's why they want to crush him, throw him in jail, destroy him forever. Because once he gets out of the White House and he's free to do what he wants, say what he wants, and he's got the money to back it up, I wouldn't be so depressed, friends. The future might not be quite as bad as it seems at the moment. In fact, go ahead, Joe, Nancy, Sandy, Cammie. You got the ball now. You got the power. You got it all. You can use whatever pronouns you want, because I know you're big into the pronoun thing. You get to use whatever pronouns you want. There's nobody there to stop you. You get to kill as many babies as you physically can. Just spill blood all over the place, because you certainly won't have a pro-life president up there to stop you this time. You can marry whoever you want. You can marry your parakeets, your watermelons, your German shepherds, your fish, your goldfish, whatever you want. You can marry it and call that little thing you got going a family, okay? Because you've got the power, all the power. Jump that shark, you freaks, you puny little human beings who actually think. You can walk in the shoes of Donald J. Trump. Those are some big shoes.
I don't envy them.
Can you imagine? He's dominated for 4 years. He's dominated the news cycle 24/7. And no question about it. He's a huge personality. And now this simpering old grandpa comes out there, Joe Biden. Man, that's a narcissist if he thinks he can take on Donald Trump. So anyway, we can't wait to see how these people are going to do. You know, now that there's nothing left for them to tear down, there's nobody left for them to blame. There's nothing but themselves to make war against. And you know what? Nobody hates Joe Biden, for example, more than Cammie Harris. She really can't stand that guy. You know that. Nobody hates AOC more than Nancy Pelosi does. So let the feeding frenzy begin, friends. This isn't going to last long. It's marked by evil and stupidity. These are the dumbest people from the most ignorant generation in human history. And they're about ready to give it a go. They're going to try to take over the world. You know? And it's going to be a terrific dumpster fire to watch. So we need to hold it together, friends. You know, pray about it, laugh at these people, mock them because they're richly deserving of mockery, and then stand with us, stand with the patriots, stand with the guys with the flags and the boats and the trucks, you know, the Make America Great, stand with the pro-lifers, stand with the good people and the little people, finally, stand with Jesus Christ. Put your trust in him, ultimately. That's what this has been all about. Trump has bought us a little political capital to raise the standard of Christ the King. It was always about that. Put your trust in him. Put on the armor of God. Don't be afraid. You know, prepare for the greatest adventure now of our lives, to do our part to sweep yet another revolution into the dustbin of human history. Holy cow! That's the opportunity that we have. You terrified of that? We're all going to be dead in 50 years anyway. But we have the chance to go out with glory, to go out as soldiers of Jesus Christ who've kept the faith. Imagine if you'd lost the faith over the past 4 years, 10, 15 years, whatever. If you're faithless and dark like they are, if your eyes are dark, your soul's dark, your mind is dark. Ours aren't. We're awake. We can see. We have clarity. We walk in the light of Christ. Be depressed right now. We have the chance, we have the honor, if we're up to the task, to walk in the footsteps of Thomas More, Edmund Campion, Father Miguel Pro, Father Maximilian Kolbe, who stood up to the Nazis and single-handedly did them so much damage by his fidelity to Christ. To walk in the shoes of Joan of Arc, of Crusaders, of Vendéans, of the Cristeros, friends. If we just have the courage to answer the call and the foresight and the insight to see what an honor it is. It's not a curse. It's an honor to answer the call of God and the call of history, to stand apart from the mindless, miserable mob, and to do the right thing, to have a desire to do the right thing, to want nothing more than doing the right thing against the children of darkness. You see, this revolution has already failed, friends, if we look at it like that. It's failed because it failed to seduce us or to impress us, to suck us in, just as it failed in the case of millions of our brothers and sisters throughout the whole world. Praise God for that. And that's why they fear us. They threw everything, including the kitchen sink, at us. And here we are, standing here, ready to laugh in their face, rosaries in hand, ready to fight to the death, while they cower in their basements because they're afraid of the flu. We're not alone, friends. You're not alone. Because you're out there, I'm not alone. And I thank God for you. Blessed be the name of the God, of the Lord God of heaven, and bring on the persecution. The proof that they've got nothing left is that persecution, because they got nothing left. They've failed, and they're desperate, and they're terrified of a tiny little remnant of believers like us. We don't have power, we don't have money, but we have something to believe in, and therefore we are their greatest wake-up nightmare. Little people who are willing to stand with Christ, the King, the Lord of history, and in whose august company now, as we enter this period of darkness, in whose company we say to them, bring it on. I'm Michael Matt for Run the TV, and we'll see you next week.